Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this workshop on 2021 Community College Survey of Student Engagement, or CCSSE. CCSSE. It's called CCSSE. It's an interesting acronym. And I put the title as a question: what can we learn from this survey results? So that's exactly what we are going to do in this short workshop. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Kurian, Tharakunnel, Executive Director of Research and Institutional Effectiveness here at Triton. We are a small department. We basically help people to make decisions with helping them with the data and insights so they can make better decisions. That's what we do. As I said, we are a small team of just 2 people now. I have my colleague there, Merlu Murphy. Dr. Murphy is a senior research associate. And actually, we are hiring. We are hiring for 2 positions in our department: senior research associate and a senior data analytics specialist position. So that's about my department and a short pitch for those 2 positions. So if you know somebody. Okay, so coming to this workshop, how many of you have heard about this survey before? Okay, great. So I believe you have some idea about what this survey is, but I will just start with some introduction to this survey. So CCSSE, or Community College Survey of Student Engagement, is a national survey administered by Center for Community College Student Engagement at University of Texas, Austin. And as the name indicates, it is basically about student engagement, how we assess that. But more than that, what the survey does is looking at the engagement and how the engagement helps in student learning as well as student retention, ultimately student success. And looking at two aspects at any institution. One is how the institutional practices, what the institution does, and what the students do, student effort or student behaviors, these two interact and how they impact the student learning and student retention. That's what this particular survey trying to measure. And of course, this information can be used in many ways. We will talk a little bit about that at the end. But given that we have been conducting this survey since at least 2006, typically this is a paper-based survey on a sample of students, usually. So we provide the list of students to the CCSSE center, and they generate a sample, and we go to individual classes and conduct the survey. That used to be the case in the last several years. We used to conduct the survey every 3 years since 2006. And that used to be the case, except the last edition of the survey, that's in 2021 edition. It became an online survey, as you would imagine, because of the pandemic. So it became an online survey, and also it was not a sample survey. Every student, every credit student 18 or above was invited to respond to this survey. So that was a big difference. And so this was administered in last spring semester, and about 200 students responded to the online survey. That's a low number compared to the paper-based surveys we used to have. Typically, we used to get about 700 students participate in the survey, but with the online version, we got only 200 students. But the survey results still are good at the aggregate level, at the highest level. When you go into, if you want to look at the results at a subgroup level, like, for example, a particular department or particular area, then it might be problematic because of low numbers or small sample size. So it's not a sampling survey. So we administered this survey in, as I said, in spring semester. We got back the results in summer, and we have been presenting these results to different audiences, starting with the President's Cabinet, College Council, and we would be going out to other avenues too. I thought this is probably the most important avenue for these survey results, because faculty as well as other staff who are directly working with students, they get to see these results up close and look at these results and try to make sense of these results. Talking about these results, this is a huge survey actually. It takes more than 20 minutes to complete the survey. So it's a real task for the student to really focus on for 20 minutes and complete the survey. There are about 47 questions, main items, and then there are several sub-items for the survey. So about 150 individual questions. And because of that, if you look at the results, the kind of information gathered by this survey, there is a lot of information. Now the question is, how do you make sense of all this information coming out of this survey? That's where the SSE Center actually helps with some way of providing that information at an aggregate level, at a high level, so that you get a sense of what's coming out of the survey, the first results. And then, depending on your requirement, you can go deeper into the survey. So that's what we are going to do. We will look at the survey results at the highest level, what are called benchmarks. As I mentioned, this survey is a national survey, which means about more than 400 community colleges have participated in this survey, large and small. So because of that, you can actually benchmark your results with other institutions. So what SSE Center is providing, those benchmark scores that can be compared with other institutions, or the average score of other institutions. So SSE at the highest level provides 5 benchmarks. As you can see here, the 5 benchmarks. These benchmarks basically represent certain set of questions. So certain set of questions go to the first benchmark called active and collaborative learning. This is about how the students are engaged in active learning and how collaborative that learning process. Second one is student effort. That's again is another set of questions. The student effort, how behaviors related to that. Academic challenge, how challenging the course work, the evaluation, and all those aspects. Student-faculty interaction, both inside as well as outside the class. Support for learners, this is more from an institutional practice point of view, how the institution is supporting the student in learning as well as in terms of their experience at the institution. So these are the 5 benchmarks, as I said, at the highest level. And then we can look at the score for these benchmarks and see how we are performing and compare to other institutions. So let's look at the first set of results at the highest of these benchmarks. So these are the standardized benchmarks for Triton in SSE 2021. So standardized in the sense, the benchmark scores are standardized so that For the entire cohort, that's for the entire all colleges put together, the mean score would be 50. So the score is adjusted or multiplied so that the standardized mean score would be 50. The good thing about that standardization is you can look at your score and see if it is above 50, your score is above 50, then you are above the average. And if it is below 50, it is below the average for all the institutions. So that makes it easy for you to make sense of your score. So look at our scores for SSE 2021. You can see that we are below the average for 3 of these benchmarks, and at one benchmark, student-faculty interaction, we are at just above the mean, and for support for learners, we are well above the cohort, well above 50. So that's for SSE 2021. We can go into each individual benchmark scores. We will go a little deeper in a bit. But more than that, as I said, we have been administering this survey for the last several years, every 3 years, since 2006. So let's look at how we have been progressing or how the data has been trending, at least in the last 3 administrations. So I have here the benchmark scores for the latest 3 administrations, 2015, 18, and 21. Here, since we are not comparing with other institutions, and since we are looking at different years, we are not standardizing the score. We can't, because the standardization process is different in different years. So we have to look at the raw benchmark score, which is between 0 and 1. And these are the scores for the last 3 administrations, that is 2015, 18, and 21. As you can see, for active and collaborative learning and student effort, our score has come down from 2015, and for other 3, it has gone up from 2015. Especially the support for learners, you can see there has been a steady increase in our score since 2015. So what can we make out of this? When we say our benchmark score is going up, what does it really mean? To learn more about it, we have to really go into the benchmark scores or the questions that make up the individual benchmark. So maybe the most interesting one would be support for learners, where we are seeing a steady increase in the score in the last 3 years. So let's look at the scores that load up to that particular benchmark. So these are, I don't know, it's a little blurred. Sorry about that. It's not typed in. It's basically copied and pasted. So maybe a little blurred here. So these are the questions that load up to the benchmark of support for learners. And what I have here is the mean score for this particular benchmark in 2018 and 2021. And as you can see, all of those scores have gone up, except for career counseling. That has actually gone down. So some of the questions: providing the support you need to help. How much does this college emphasize the following? That's the question. Then the different items under that are providing the support you need to help you succeed at this college, encouraging contact among students from different economic, social, and racial or ethnic backgrounds, helping you cope with your non-academic responsibilities, providing the support you need to thrive socially, providing the financial support you need to afford your education. Then the other question is, how often have you used the following services during the current academic year? Academic advising and planning. That particular, I just want to call out this particular item because it has gone up from 1.59 to 1.79. So this includes the academic advising and counseling support. So, and the last one is career counseling. So you can see that there is a real improvement in this score and for all of these questions. And you get an idea of where we are making good progress. It's with the student support services. And we know that we have made a lot of investments, changes, improvements in the last 3 years, maybe last 5 years, especially in these support services. And students are really experiencing that, or at least they are responding in a positive way based on their experience. So that's, yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
Funding, college readiness, full time back. I wanted to know, were any of the questions relevant to the pandemic as well too? Because of the fact that it could have been a major effect on some of the questions that were asked of the students because of those things.
The special topic, every survey has a special focus item, and this survey had a special focus item called related to COVID. So COVID-19, there were a set of COVID-19 related questions. We can go into that. I wasn't planning to do it because it's kind of similar to the questions we had asked in other surveys we conducted internally, but we can certainly go into that. At least we can just look at those survey items. So that gives you an idea. Yes, it has impacted the remote learning. That has impacted. So there was nothing surprising about it because we have already learned, or we have learned this same thing from other surveys we conducted in the last 1 year. But certainly we will go into that. We'll spend some time with those questions. Did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, because I was just concerned because
yeah,
it makes a difference when we're looking back at those numbers from the last previous academic years. This 2001, 2000, when they were asked the questions, changed a lot of things that as faculty members, as an institution, had been going to change. So those things could have a major effect on how students reply to those questions.
Absolutely, I agree. One of the things I would mention, this is something that came to my mind, especially for student support. The last 1 year, we have been very, very intentional about our student support in the last 1 year, in the pandemic period. So that probably influenced this kind of a response where they really experienced that change in student support. We were reaching out to the students more and more about providing the support. So online as well as in person. So I believe that is reflected, but that's my personal opinion. It's not mentioned anywhere in the report or anything. So, but I think that's a factor. So, moving on to other aspects at the highest level. So at the highest level, again, the SSE Center provides the highest student engagement, aspects of highest student engagement. So the questions where we were significantly different in a positive way, significantly higher compared to the cohort, the other colleges. These were the survey items. I don't want to repeat that because it's all belong to the student support questions. They all belong to the student support benchmark except the student-faculty interaction question that asks whether the student worked with instructors on activities other than coursework. So that's where we have a big difference compared to with other colleges. So these are the aspects of highest student engagement. So the blue bar is Triton, and then the yellow bar is the 2021 SSE cohort. So you can see the difference. Every one of these questions, our score is higher than the cohort average. Okay, so on the other side, they also provide aspects of lowest engagement. So again, the questions where we had lower score compared to the cohort. And this is something we have been observing for several administrations of these surveys. It's all related to student effort and, like for example, peer or other tutoring, skill labs, frequency of attending skill labs or use of skill labs, or frequency of peer or other tutoring, and preparing for class. So time spent on preparing for class, that's related to student effort benchmark, and we can see we are lower compared to others. Another one, academic challenge related, number of written papers or reports of any length. So that's, again, we are lower than the cohort. So with that, we will go into some specific survey items. Every survey has some additional survey items we can select. And this year, there was a set of questions that was offered that are related to what I call students in need. So this particular survey items provide information on topics like, we have these kind of questions like, how many of our students are having challenge in terms of food, basic needs like food and shelter. We have a meal pantry, for example. So, and when we make decisions related to, say, food pantry and other aspects, helping students on those aspects, we always get these questions. And we thought this is a good set of questions. We would like to see the results. Again, it's about 150 students actually answered these questions. It was part of the main survey, but only 150 students answered these questions. So let's go into these questions. I will not go into every question, but I just want to look at some questions and the answers, the results we have. So these are the reports we get directly from CCSSE, and these tables show the Triton results, the frequencies, the percentage, and the count and percentage, then in comparison to large colleges, so that's one group, and then the entire cohort was colleges that participated in students in need set of questions. So that's those are the columns here. So let's look at some of the questions here. In the last 30 days, did you ever cut the size of your meals or skip meals because there wasn't enough money for food? 22.2% of our students said yes, and that's about a little higher than what we are seeing for large colleges and for the entire cohort. Another question. In the last 30 days, were you ever hungry or did you eat because there wasn't enough money for food? 16.1% of our students who responded said yes, compared to 14.9% for the cohort. Then, in the last 30 days, did your college ever help you get food when you could not afford to purchase it? 6.9% said yes, 10.1% said no, and I needed this kind of help. Can you put a number for us? No, but I didn't need this kind of help, 83%. So again, this is about the same as you can see for the cohort, except for Noah, and I needed this kind of help. Then, I don't want to go into each and every question, but let's look at some of the questions related to shelter. in the last 12 months, did you ever stay in temporary housing? Only 3 students out of the 147 responded said yes. And that's 2.2%, about this, a little lower than this cohort. Then in the last 12 months, did you ever sleep in an outdoor location or a space not meant for human habitation because you had no other place to sleep? 3 students again said yes. In the last 12 months, did you ever temporarily stay with a relative or a friend or couch surf because you had no other place to stay? 9 students said that yes, that's 6.2%. So this is to show, this is an important piece of information. I wish we had more responses, but when we have never asked our students this question before, as far as I know. And we always get this kind of question. Okay, how about the basic needs of our students? Do they have challenges? And this survey now provides that kind of information for a variety of decisions we make related to this. Now, let's go back to, so the next survey items I want to talk about is, along with the student survey, faculty are also invited to participate in a survey, which is similar to the student survey, similar questions, but from a faculty perspective. And so it is called Community College Faculty Survey of Student Engagement, or CCSSE. And the individual surveys results are available, but more interestingly, probably, you can look at the same kind of questions and see how the faculty have responded and how the students have responded. So let's look at that real quick. I will again go into some of the questions, especially I wanted to go into. So again, in this table, you have the question. The faculty response is split into part-time and full-time faculty, and then you have the survey question for students, which is similar to the faculty question, and the student results. Now let's look at this particular question. 30, before we go there, the 30 part-time instructors and 31 full-time instructors participated in this particular question. How often do students in your selected course section receive prompt feedback? So from you about their performance. Then in fact, nobody. And it's all basically never. So it's no faculty members said never. But you can see that the similar question here in your experiences at this college during the current academic year about how often have you received feedback from instructors on your performance. It's never got 17 students, that's 9.3%. Then, how often, the next question, how often do students in your selected course section work harder than they thought they could meet your standards or expectations? Never. So faculty all said never. No faculty said never, but a similar question for students was, in your experiences at this college during the current academic year, about how often have you worked harder than you thought you could to meet an instructor's standards or expectations? It is a honest, probably a very honest answer there. With 10 students said never. So you can see the difference there. So this particular table and this report provides this kind of comparison between the faculty response and the student response. Now, coming to the third set of questions, I want to talk about here the faculty survey. This is again something new. This year, SSE introduced as a pilot survey a set of questions related to race ethnicity. So these questions are related to the race ethnicity diversity aspects of the institution. So let's look at these questions. Again, about 60 faculty members responded to these questions. Okay, so there is no comparison here. There is no comparison to the cohort here. It's basically providing the count and percentage of responses by part-time and full-time instructors and the combined. So I will again go through some of the questions. So for example, do you believe racism exists at this college? 17 part-time and 14 full-time. So it's 50% of those who responded, full-time faculty responded yes. And that's 55% of the total instructors who responded said yes. During the current academic year at this college, how often have you witnessed racism? 62.5% of all the instructors who responded said never, 25 said rarely, 8.9 said sometimes, 3.6% said often. That's two instructors. During the current academic year at this college, I have had opportunities to provide feedback to the college regarding incidents of racism. This is a strongly agree or strongly disagree kind of question. So strongly agree, 24% strongly disagree. 43.6% of the respondents disagree with that statement, whereas 10.9% strongly agree with that. At this college, there is an adequate amount of diversity among instructors and staff members. 5.3%, that's 3 instructors, agreed with that, and 20 strongly disagreed. That's 35% strongly agree with that. I'm sorry. 3 people disagreed with that, and 20 agreed with that. That's 35%.1. Currently, there is a culture of caring at this college. 41.1% strongly agreed with that. 28.6 moderately agreed with that. Where 3.6% or 2 individuals strongly disagree with that statement. In the last 12 months, have you participated in any professional development activities that have helped you understand the history of various races and ethnicities? 53.6, that is 30 instructors said yes, 46.4% said no. Again, as I said, this is a pilot set of questions, and they piloted these questions in this year for the first time. They would like to continue with these questions in the coming administrations too, but it's all going to be based on the feedback they get in terms of they are still deciding about how these questions would be framed in the future, but they are also planning it. They had a pilot survey for students also. We will be planning for that pilot student survey also in the coming spring. So that's another set of questions and data points coming out of this survey. Okay, I just want to go into Ryan's question about COVID. COVID questions. Okay, these were the COVID-related questions. The first question was, how would you describe your current personal financial situation? It is better than it was before the COVID-19 pandemic. That's 12.7% for Triton. Then it is worse than it was before, 40%. It's about the same, 13.4%. Are you struggling to pay for college? 39.8% said no. Does this college have support services to help students cope with stress related to the COVID-19 pandemic? 44.5% said yes. 51.2% said I don't know. That's a surprising result. Since the beginning of this academic term at this college, I have tried to avoid situations on campus in which I am unable to stay 6 feet away from another person. So I strongly agree, 38.6% strongly agree with that. So again, we didn't have every class in spring as in person, so we need to take into account that, and the survey was online. This is again important. Are you able to access the internet at your home when you need it for your coursework at this college? About 78% said yes, and it is reliable. 19.2% said yes, but it's not always reliable. Actually, just 2.8%, that's just 4 out of 150 said no, I cannot access the internet at my home. And we have seen similar results in the surveys we conducted in the last 1 year. So it's good to know that. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of the details. But I wanted to mention that these results and these reports are available on our portal under the research folder. If you go to employee portal, then the research, click on the research folder. Then there is a subfolder called SSE results, and in that folder you would see these reports as well as reports from other administrations in the past. So that if you want to dig into any aspects of this survey, you can certainly get that information from there. But how do we use this? This is always the question. Like, okay, we have all this information, how do we use this? As we have seen in the first slide, this information is used for making improvements. Remember the two aspects the SSE is trying to assess: institutional practices and student behaviors. So, especially institutional practices, what changes can we make? And this survey is giving us a lot of information on that. In fact, whenever you are encountering, or whenever you are faced with a decision related to any of these topics, academic advising and planning, barriers to persistence, career counseling, critical thinking, orientation, registration, job skills, job placement, you could find relevant information in this survey, which could help you with formulating your ideas or making a decision too. So there are plenty of opportunities, plenty of avenues you can actually make use of this data. with that, I will stop here, and I will be glad to answer your questions, or if you want to go into a specific survey area or topic, I'd be glad to do that. We have all the results here. We can always go into specific reports.
Is it possible to look at some of the reasons why students are withdrawing from classes?
Absolutely. Yes, but since I have looked at these results, I can tell you exactly what we are seeing, not just from this survey, from other surveys in the last several years. What we are seeing, the top reasons are they have they can cope with the work and the schoolwork, so they don't know how to adjust their work schedule with the school schedule. So that's the top reason. Then, of course, financial difficulties. Then another one related to, especially with the teaching, especially with the course, is the course is tough for them. So the academic challenge, it is academically challenging for them. So these are some of the top reasons they are withdrawing from courses. Do you see that as one of the, or do you think that align with what you see in your classes?
Well, I can say that it is in alignment with that, but I also, when you mentioned about the rigor of the class, that also goes back to student and faculty interaction. So that means that students, based on that, are withdrawing from the classes based on they're not getting more interaction from the instructor, or it's a lack of communication between them. We don't really know. And without knowing that information, you see exactly how we, as faculty members and those who interact with students, can better assist them with that. So could it be that A, that the students are afraid to approach their instructors? B, are the students have a lack of communication with their instructor because of his or her time? Or C, could it be that the student doesn't know how to interact with their instructor because they don't know how to approach or even ask those questions necessary to get that assistance?
Yes, this is exactly what we are seeing in that results related to student and faculty comparison. If you see, you will see that they don't go to the faculty outside of the class, or they don't interact with the faculty. That's something we are seeing in those questions. So it is coming up.
So is it coming up because of the fact that, without knowing, and saying it from both sides of the house, being full-time and then also being part-time. We have part-time instructors who may not have the time to actually engage with their students as much as they probably want to. And the students may not reflect or see that because they don't see an instructor as being full-time or part-time. They just see him as an instructor.
Mm-hmm.
So that may not, I'm not sure is that reflected in there if the student says, well, because I didn't have the interaction with my instructor, because he or she is part-time and they have to run out to another institution, or they're coming in from another place of employment. Then you're also looking at maybe if they do know if they're a full-time faculty member as well too, are they saying that because the full-time faculty member is not engaging with them because of their lack of commitment or their lack of concentration in the classroom, or they just don't know how to approach them, or is that person approachable? Because there have been times where students will say they're in the classroom with a faculty member, our colleagues, and they don't know how to engage with them because they're afraid to talk to them because of their statute or even whatever approaches that that person may have that blocks them from that, which goes back to withdrawals as well too.
Yeah, this is something we are seeing in every survey. We have the student satisfaction survey we conduct every year in spring semester, and in SSE also we see these are the top reasons for them to withdraw from the course.
In addition to that, are there any based on the research, or is there any connection with, I see 4 topics up there that could be probably related to how students interact in the classroom. You have the faculty and staff interaction, the student satisfaction, technology, and withdrawing, which also leads to the support services. Because if, in this case, we are seeing that these are some of the things that institutions across the nation need to address, how we as Triton can address those things so that we are on the faculty or student development committee addressing those issues about withdrawing. Those connections, to me, actually, how should I say? They're connected in the sense that we don't really know enough about what the students. Because when we'll get, for example, a student may come to my class and say, I'm withdrawing from the class because of work schedule. That I can understand, and I'll try to work with the student because of that. But if you're saying the student in the class, based on their survey, saying they withdraw from the class because of lack of interaction with the faculty member, what can a faculty member do if they don't know exactly what that means? Because are you saying they're not interacting with it because they're afraid to talk to them, or they are not approachable? Then there's also the support systems as well too. There's individuals on campus that may know all about support systems, know exactly what the academic services do, student life, etc. But then we have faculty members, I hate to say this, but we have colleagues who may not know about those services and how to facilitate those things in the classroom to the students. So the report, it sounds like it does a lot, but there's questions that we may not be able to answer with those without actually knowing exactly what questions are being asked.
Certainly, the survey results, we can certainly go into individual questions related to that, if you like to. But the survey, what the survey provides is one, a high-level view of that. Okay, you can spot the issues, but the actual issue could be more nuanced than that. So that gives you an idea where to look for more signals and what could be the real reasons. As you said, why students are not approaching faculty. Is it because of they are not really, the instructor is not approachable, or they are on the student part, they are afraid? So this is something we have to further probe. So where to probe? That's exactly what the survey is going to provide for that kind of a situation, or that to answer those kind of questions. So the survey can point you into certain directions where you may have to probe further. The survey may not give you, the results may not give you a concrete answer to those questions. Yes, I agree. Other questions or comments? Yes.
Are they going to continue to administer this survey online, or is there a discussion about bringing it back to an actual classroom where students are actually given the survey and then it's collected?
The next administration will be in 2024, because every 2 years we administer the survey. I really hope we'll be going back to we should be able to do it paper, pencil survey in 2024. But we have another survey, which is a sister survey of SSE, right now undergoing, what's called SENSE. This is directed towards new students, survey of entering student engagement. So it's very similar, but it is targeted to new students and what they experience when they come to Triton. And we have 1,600 students in that particular survey as the target audience. And the survey email went out this Tuesday. Again, that's an online survey. And the coming survey in 2022, is again online, but I would expect by 2024 it's going to be again pencil and paper. We had the option to go for a pencil and paper based in spring, but we didn't have students here to do that. So we opted for online version. So, yeah, that reminds me of a request. If you're teaching a new, predominantly new student class or one of those introductory classes, please mention this survey in your classes. You'll be receiving an email from me. If your class has a high percentage of new students, you'll be receiving an email about the survey with some details, so that could be helpful for you. But I just want to mention about the SENSE. It's called SENSE. It's a survey of entering student engagement. Let me show you a graphic that I'm just using this opportunity since we're talking about this. So this is the flyer, and all they have to do is they would have received the email with the subject line, we need your, Triton needs your input. And all they have to do is click on the survey link and enter their email address. This is only for new students. So, and there are some incentives for completing this survey. Like they will be entered into a lottery with 5 jewel gift cards, and one student will get 3 credit, course voucher. Any other questions or comments? We have another 2 minutes.
Kurian, is that flyer out now?
I'm sorry?
Is that flyer out now? Or is
Yes, yes. The email has gone out to the students, but I will be sharing that with you and the instructors next week. So this would be available to everyone. So you can actually influence some of these students, these new students, to take this survey. We need a good response rate here. We usually get about 300, 400 responses for this survey, but I'm really worried about the online version because we used to conduct this survey as a paper-based survey. So the online survey is really hard to get responses, and they are getting all kinds of emails and the vaccination-related emails and all that. So it's very hard for us to get their attention to this survey. So any help in getting the students to complete this survey would be greatly appreciated. And it's going to give us good data. And we will be sharing the SENSE results in spring. When we get just like this workshop, we will be having a separate workshop for SENSE results. Again, something very similar to SESI. Again, if there are no questions, thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending this.